kingdom, and now we're here to take it back.
You were saying...
I'm sorry, my dear. Did I frighten you?
Welcome back to the Nerdy Grail, and as you can see, I've got all my live action Disney movies behind me because, yeah, this is a video that was long coming ever since the trailers dropped, ever since we had all the controversy going on all about it. Yeah, yesterday on the 21st of March, Friday the 21st of March, me and my fiance, we sat down, went to the cinema to actually watch the brand new Snow White movie for 2025, the live action one, which is, yeah, it was a very, very interesting experience, to say the least. As you could probably tell by the thumbnail, it was the very first film that I've ever watched where people have actually walked out of the cinema. There was at least 5 or 6 people that I saw actually walk out of the movie at different points. Most of them it was about the halfway mark where I saw the first person leave, and then slowly, bit by bit, more and more people actually decided to walk out and leave. I didn't, because I'm of the philosophy personally, like, I've paid to see the movie. Regardless of how bad the movie is, I'm going to just sit through it, you know, to at least get my money's worth. So I watched the whole movie. And I'm a bit conflicted on the movie, if I'm being perfectly honest. This might be controversial for people, because I know lots of people are tearing this to shreds, have been tearing this movie to shreds. I'm not saying by any shape of the imagination that this is a good movie, because it's not a good movie, definitely not. But is it as bad as what we were all making out? I don't actually think so, surprisingly. I actually think it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen. There was bits to the movie that I actually did like. It was entertaining at times, I'm not going to lie. So I'm just going to break this down for you bit by bit and give you my honest review of Snow White 2025. Right, so I feel like the best way I can break this down is to probably... I'm not going to go really over the plot, because most of you already know the plot of Snow White. But, I mean, there are some subtle changes as well, which I will get into. But most of you know the brief basic concept of Snow White. You know, Snow White grew up princess of a castle, has a mother and father. The mother dies. The dad gets tricked by the new stepwife, who's the evil queen, to go off, never returns. And so she takes power, treats Snow White like rubbish, wants her gone, because the evil queen wants to be the prettiest, fairest of the land, but actually that's Snow White, and so she can't have Snow White around. So wants Snow White killed, so Snow White gets sent into the middle of the forest, and then she ends up encountering the 7 dwarfs who help her, protect her, and then obviously the evil queen, after finding out that Snow White is still alive, goes into the forest as this old witch, old hag character, with the classic poison apple, you know, causing Snow White to fall into an eternal slumber. A bit like Sleeping Beauty, not quite like Sleeping Beauty, and it can only be woken up by True Love's kiss. So they kill Snow White, only True Love's kiss can save her. Someone comes along, saves her. It is that basic premise for the film. They do it again in a slightly different way. So I'm not going to really go into the plot too much. I'm mostly just going to go over like my positives and negatives, what I think they did right, because there was a couple of things that I thought they did okay, and the things that they sort of, you know, they messed up on, but we knew they were going to mess up on these things. So let me try to start on a bit more of a positive note. So let's go over some of the positives, things that I did actually not mind in this movie. I will say visually, taking the dwarves aside, so ignoring the dwarves when I say visually, I think this film's quite nice. There's some really nice visuals in this film. I love the costumes, to be fair. Snow White's outfit looks really, really nice. The Evil Queen's outfit looks nice. The panning shots that you get of the kingdom and the castle, and even into the forest, and the dwarves' house as well. They look stunning. There's some brilliant shots of the mines as well when the dwarves are working. The background of all the jewels and everything, the mine carts and all that. It all looks really, really nice. And that's sort of something you can at least expect from Disney for the most part, is visually, despite what you think about the plot or the characters, usually like the backdrops and everything do usually look really nice, and I think that's the same here. So it was visually nice to look at, which is what I think helped keep me engaged as well from start to finish, to be fair. I would also say that the acting wasn't horrendous. So obviously you've got Rachel Zegler as Snow White, which if you've been following Snow White as it's gone through, you know all about everything that's gone on and people's thoughts on her. To be fair to her, I'll give her some credit. She wasn't terrible. She was all right. She did a decent-ish job as Snow White. Gal Gadot, as you know from loads of things, I mainly know her as Wonder Woman, but she played the Evil Queen. She did all right, to be fair. There was times where I actually forgot she was there, though, because they would cut, obviously, to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and then it'd be like 20 minutes later, and then, oh, there's the Evil Queen again. And going back to the visual thing, when Gal Gadot's Evil Queen becomes the old evil hag, old evil witch, the transformation was really, really nice. Slow-paced as well. He really drew it out. So I quite like that, to be fair. I thought that was good. As well, then but I feel like that's kind of where my positives end, if I'm being perfectly honest, visually and some of the characters. I mean, to be fair, I will say the Seven Dwarves, visually, taking them aside, as characters, they were entertaining to listen to. I did like all the personalities coming through, so that was really, really cool. Some were used a lot more than others, but one of them is going to be part of my negatives, unfortunately, but I'll do that as a collection with the dwarves. But I'm going to now talk a little bit more about the negatives, because yeah, for me there was a few. I would say my first negative is the pacing. The pacing of this film felt very off. They almost had like a rush checklist by the end of things that they needed to do. They spent way too long at the start building up Snow White, building up her backstory and the reason for why she's at the dwarf's house, which, you know, you need to do in a film. I'm not saying they shouldn't have done that, but the problem is, because they spent so long doing that, when Snow White then met the dwarves, they then rushed everything. So they rushed Snow White's introduction with the dwarves. They rushed her then needing to try and find out about her father, the Evil Queen becoming the old hag and poisoning her. And once the Evil Queen poisons Snow White with the apple, then it is just so rushed. It feels like you're watching a YouTube short or something, because there's literally a scene where the prince character, Jonathan, who's the love interest, he's captured by the Evil Queen. There's literally a scene where you see him captured. He then breaks out and then immediately finds Snow White, and Snow White's brought back to life. It's very choppy. It's really... So it felt really off to me. It was like, the writers were like, oh, hold on a minute. We've only got like 5 minutes left of the movie. We haven't done this yet. Oh, it'll be fine. Just write it in, quick. We got to get it out. So, yeah, I didn't like the pacing. Yeah, the Seven Dwarfs, right, okay. Look, compared to the trailer, and me and my fiance, we both noticed this, they weren't as horrendous to look at. So clearly they may have looked at the feedback that people had from the trailer and thought, okay, we need to see if we can tidy this up a little bit. And they did. They still weren't great. They didn't look Polar Express levels of bad now. But they still weren't great. And there was a couple of moments where it was hard to watch them, if I'm being perfectly honest. Yeah, so the dwarves' design didn't look very good either, if I'm honest. That's not saying that the characters of the dwarves weren't done well. Most of them were. So I'd say, going back to a positive, they were done pretty well. Visually, they were just really difficult to look at, if I'm honest. But the biggest thing that I don't know if it's going to bother everyone. It might bother some people. I know it bothered a couple of people in my screening of it, and it does bother me and my fiance, is if you've watched the original Snow White, you know about the character of Dopey and how he's mute, so he doesn't really speak, so it can all be done visually, which is sort of the point of the character to a degree. They actually make Dopey speak at the end of this movie, and we looked to each other and we both thought this isn't right. This is weird, and we're not really a big fan of that. And it did take away from the character. I know what they were trying to do, because they set up that obviously Dopey, he didn't want to speak because he felt like people would criticize him for speaking, that he wouldn't have anything intelligent to say, so he was worried and scared. So Snow White taught him about whistling, and so he'd communicate via whistling. And I thought, that's all right, that's fine, you know, but it's almost like they tried to conquer that fear, which I get that, but that's not the point of the character. It's just part of him. Don't change who he is. That's just his character. So I wasn't a big fan of Dopey speaking, if I'm perfectly honest. That kind of spoilt Dopey for me. But yeah, I don't know. And also visually, the magic mirror. And the magic mirror in the trailer looked awful. Not as bad as the Shrek one now, but the magic mirror looked terrible. I didn't think the magic mirror looked too bad. But yeah, I don't know. It was just all a bit weird. This film, if I was to sum it up in one word, it was a weird movie. It was a weird movie, which is why I'm conflicted. I don't really know if I like it. I don't really know if I hate it, because I've seen movies that I have come out and hated. I can't say I hated watching Snow White, but it is a movie that I can't say is great, but I can't say it's terrible either. I would say it is mediocre. I say it was a mediocre live-action remake, in my personal opinion. I'd probably, if I was to rate it out of 10, I'd probably maybe give it a 5 or a 6, so bang in the middle. Maybe I'm being generous and I'll give it a 6, because the songs as well, I will say, you know, Disney and their songs, they're usually decent, and the songs in Snow White were really, really good. So singing was great, although the villain song by the Evil Queen, my fiance and I both agree, it was a little bit odd. it didn't feel very natural. But yeah, so that's just going to be my review on Snow White, because I'm still mentally conflicted by it. So I am going to revisit this film, I think, at some point, and maybe do a more in-depth review on it, perhaps. I'll see. But for now, that is going to be my little review on Snow White 2025. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please like it by giving it a thumbs up and comment down below. Did you go to the cinema to watch Snow White, and what do you think of it? And subscribe if you are new. But for now, this is Nerdy Grail signing off. I hope you've had an amazing day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now, everyone.